Welcome everybody to Law and Crime Daily. I'm Jesse Weber. We are 1 month into a mass murder investigation in the small community of Moscow, Idaho, and we don't have a lot more answers than we did just 4 weeks ago. And because of that, some parents are calling the police cowards. Stephen Gonsalves has spoken out repeatedly about his daughter Kaylee, who was killed along with her best friend Madison Mogan, roommate Zana Kernodle, and Zana's boyfriend Ethan Chapin. The stabbings happened November 13th as the people inside the three-story home were sleeping. Gonsalves told Fox News that after speaking with the coroner, he now knows the victims had big open gouges that were clearly the work of a, quote, sadistic male. The father had previously said that according to the coroner in the death certificate, his daughter Kaylee's wounds were more vicious than the others, indicating that she may have been the suspect's main target. But so far, police haven't said which, if any, of the roommates were targeted, nor have they identified a suspect or a murder weapon. Forensic death investigator Joseph Scott Morgan took issue with some of the information that's coming from Mr. Gonsalves.
How does he assess that these injuries are different? Did he see this other victim's body? Was he the one drawing this conclusion? I doubt that that's the case. So is he saying that the coroner sat there and said, your child's injuries are so much more worse than any other victim? That's what I have a real problem with here. First off, I don't know how accurate that is. And secondly, and I think bigger, it's very disrespectful to these other victims. Very disrespectful to these victims and their families to say this. Right now, we don't know what the status of the injuries are. It's been very nonspecific relative to defensive injuries, who sustained the defensive injuries, what the location of these so-called defensive injuries are, that sort of thing. So, you know, right now we're just kind of getting snatches from him, and I don't know the genesis of the information he is relating.
A former Moscow police captain spoke with the Daily Mail defending his old department and their investigation. Paul Kwiatkowski said, quote, why they were targeted, nobody knows yet. That involves deciphering all the digital data, and they're going to have to go through. But you have 20 people looking at tens of thousands of pieces of information. That will lead them to something, but it's going to take time. If it was my daughter, yeah, I'd want to know right now, but this is a tough case. The Moscow police are doing their best work right now. Kwiatkowski retired in 2018. Now, there's certainly a lot of ground to cover when any little suggestion could mean a breakthrough in the case. And in their latest update, Moscow police said that they are poring over thousands of clues.
Over the weekend, investigators have sorted through and prioritized numerous tips. Some are tips that came in earlier and we've been working on. Other tips are new and are relevant. It's overwhelming sometimes with the amount of information that comes in on these tip lines. So our analysts have spent hours sorting through and trying to come up with the most relevant tips first for the investigators to follow up on.
Co-host and public defender Brian Buckmeyer, as well as co-host and former trial attorney Terry Austin, join me now. It's good to see you both. Brian, I'll start with you. You think this could be a revenge killing? I mean, should the investigation focus on that angle right now?
So I'm going to take it as two parts. I don't know if I'm going to say revenge, but I will say a crime of passion. Revenge being a more specific type of passion. When you look at and think and hear about these injuries, it doesn't sound like someone who is disconnected from the killing based on the aggressiveness and the size of the injuries that are being described. Now, it's a bit of broken telephone. We're not getting it directly from the coroner. We're getting it from the coroner to the father, who is then very distressed, understandably so, and then conveying it to us. So I'm not sure how much credit to give to it, but in terms of focusing on it only, no. I think that's going to limit the investigation. Yeah. There are multiple avenues. Check them all.
So, Terry, look, we've seen some of the parents of the victims speak out against law enforcement. It's understandable. What rights do these families have exactly?
You know, they actually have a lot of rights in Idaho. Most states have this Bill of Rights in their Constitution. And in Idaho, they have to be treated with respect and dignity. They have to have a timely disposition of the case, and they can communicate with the prosecution. And if I'm looking at that, I'm interpreting it this way. They have a right to push the investigators to make sure they're doing their job, and that means criticizing if necessary. I also think that the prosecution under these circumstances should be giving more information, and more importantly, accurate information, and that's not happening right here. So I do think some of their rights in a way, have been violated. They're not getting what they need.
And it's, like I said, it's understandable. It's a tough case. It's a sensitive case, and a lot of feelings and emotions and opinions are going to come out as this case progresses. Well, we have new information for you in a different case. Over 2 years after Breonna Taylor's death, her boyfriend has reached a settlement with the city of Louisville, Kentucky. 3 officers had responded to Taylor's apartment during a no-knock search warrant looking for her ex-boyfriend, wanted drug dealer Jamarcus Glover. As Taylor's door was knocked down with a battering ram, Kenneth Walker fired a single shot from a handgun, striking an officer in the leg, and that prompted the officers to return fire, shoot into Taylor's apartment, and eventually kill her. Now, Walker was charged with attempted murder of a police officer, but those charges were later dropped as the case got more attention. Walker received $2 million from the city, and he plans on using the money to set up a scholarship fund for civil rights law students, along with funding a police and community reform center. Well, we're still awaiting a verdict in Los Angeles as deliberations resume in the sex assault trial of Harvey Weinstein. Not a peep has left the jury room since they got the case 8 days ago, and the disgraced Hollywood mogul awaits his fate behind bars. That fate could be life in prison if he's convicted on the 7 sexual assault charges that he faces, including 2 counts of forcible rape. The charges originally stemmed from 4 women, all of whom who've testified for the prosecution. I should tell you, 4 other women took the stand with very similar accusations. Weinstein did not testify in his own defense, but his team claims that the accusers fabricated their stories. Weinstein is already serving 23 years in prison for his 2020 conviction in New York on similar charges. A-list celebrities, gunfire, a possibly spurned lover, and a bitter court battle. The California case against Tory Lanez, accused of assaulting fellow rapper Megan Thee Stallion, seems to have it all. Now, Megan arrived at the courthouse Tuesday morning surrounded by a mob of reporters. Cameras aren't allowed inside the courtroom, but as you see, people gathered outside showing their support. The rap superstar says she got into an argument with Tory Lanez after a party at Kylie Jenner's house in 2020 when he shot at the ground. Now, either bullets or possibly shrapnel were embedded in her foot, but she initially told police that she had just stepped on glass. Lanez is now on trial for assault and gun possession, but he's maintaining his innocence, claiming it was actually Megan and her former best friend Kelsey Harris who were fighting. Law and Crime senior reporter Megan Cuniff is embedded for us inside that courtroom.
They had body camera footage of the police pulling the car over at gunpoint. And then they had the phone call that Tory made to Kelsey Harris from jail where he's apologizing. He doesn't actually say what he's apologizing for, but he repeatedly says that he was just so drunk and that this never would have happened if he hadn't been so drunk. And then they also have text messages that he sent Megan hours later after he got out of jail saying, you know, Meg, I'm sorry. But again, he doesn't actually say what he's sorry for in there. So Tory's lawyer was able to say that he wasn't apologizing for the shooting. He was apologizing for causing the situation that led to the shooting, which is some kind of love triangle jealousy thing between the 2 women, Tory's lawyer says.
Brian, it may sound like it's all just, petty drama between rich people, but Tory Lanez is facing some serious assault charges here.
That's right, Jesse. He is facing a little under 23 years and possibly deportation. Now, Megan Thee Stallion took the stand on day 2, where reports say that her voice cracked at the first question when she was asked, "Do you know Daystar Peterson?" And she said that she was nervous, reportedly because she just doesn't feel good. And she said, "I can't believe I have to come up here and do this." In some ways, throughout her testimony, she contradicted the defense's theory and laid out that they had laid out in their opening, but also contradicted the prosecution's theory as well. We heard about her relationship with Kelsey Harris, that she denies being jealous of Lanez and asked to leave with him and his security guard because that was her ride. She said that Lanez got angry with her, had nothing to do with jealousy, had everything to do with her comfort level at that time. Right. And she said that she lied to the police because she was afraid. She's going to be on the stand a little bit more, but I expect her cross-examination to be very lengthy.
Yeah, Terry, we're kind of in the beginning stages of this, but based on the evidence so far, what do you think the end result is going to be when all said's done?
Yeah, I do think there's going to be a conviction against Lanez. I don't know exactly which charge is going to stick, but something is going to stick. Look, there were 4 people in that car, and we know that Kelsey is going to get on the stand at some point, and she's probably going to say, look, I didn't do the shooting, the bodyguard didn't do the shooting, and we know that Megan Thee Stallion didn't shoot herself in the foot. So I do think that he will get a conviction at one point, and absolutely she's going to be supported by the witnesses. So far, we've heard from a couple of police officers, at least one who has said that what he was told at the time of the incident supports what Megan Thee Stallion is saying. So I think at the end of the day, the jury's going to say, look, there's enough evidence here to convict.
See, I think this is a fascinating case because you got bad facts for the defense and bad facts for the prosecution. This is a classic case where, I mean, I really don't know which way it's going to go, but we'll continue to follow it.